I'm a doctor who has never wanted children. But my spouse pledged to be a stay-at-home dad, but changed his mind once our baby was born, resulting in a major argument. I am a 36-year-old neurologist who adores her patients and her profession. I feel that there is no higher honor in life than the ability to serve others. My path to a medical degree was not simple, and it was paved with several rejections. I was a troublesome youngster in high school, and I did not get admitted to any universities my senior year. I had to work my way up, beginning with remedial courses at my local community college. I was overjoyed when I was eventually accepted to medical school at the age of 26. I met my husband, 37M, during my third year of medical school, and we have been married for 4 years. My spouse works in marketing, and I earn 3 times his pay. I stated from the start of our relationship that I was uncertain about having biological children. My ambition had always been to adopt from foster care, and my spouse seemed to understand it. However, after his best buddy delivered a newborn boy last year, he became increasingly insistent about having children. I was originally opposed to this concept since I was just starting out in my job and wanted to wait a few years before addressing the issue of children. In August of last year, I discovered I was unexpectedly pregnant after a condom broke during intercourse. I was considering having an abortion, but after many intense talks with my husband, we decided to have the baby and have him leave his work and remain at home until our daughter was old enough to enter preschool. There were various things that influenced our choice to have him remain at home with our kid. I make substantially more money than he does, so it just made more financial sense. I'm in my first few years as an attending physician. After 4 years of medical school and a 4-year residency, I am just beginning to practice on my own, but my spouse has been in his field for 15 years. I made it obvious that I had no desire to stay at home and be a housewife. I admire stay-at-home mothers, but my job is my life, and I would go insane staying home all day. This isn't the lifestyle I desire. Finally, I do not feel comfortable enrolling my child in daycare until she is mature enough to express herself vocally. As a former victim of molestation, I just do not trust people enough to put my daughter in the care of strangers when she is unable to report abuse or neglect. Our daughter is 9 weeks old today, and I want to resume my practice in a few weeks. This weekend, I left my spouse with our kid while I went to a medical conference out of town. The meeting was fantastic, but when I went home, my spouse began acting strangely. Today, when our daughter was asleep, I asked him to tell me what was wrong. He completely broke down and claimed he didn't believe he could do it. He talked about how imprisoned, alone, and overwhelmed he felt all weekend. He now wants me to prolong my maternity leave and is talking about attempting to reclaim his career. This freaked me out, and I wondered what would we do with our daughter now. He replied by recommending that I leave my practice and work from home. I answered, certainly not, and he proposed childcare. At this moment, I finally lost it and yelled, "If I had known you were going to break your promise to care for our daughter, I would never have had your child. I know I overreacted, but I would never swap our kid for anything. I adore her, but I am so furious with my husband that I am unsure how to go at this time." Additional information from OOP to address various health and medical concerns. OOP, a few people have brought this up, so I'm simply going to handle it now. I began hormonal BC at the age of 17 after losing my virginity. Unfortunately for me, I am the type of woman who experiences almost every negative effect listed in the 3-page leaflet. I tried several various sorts before deciding it wasn't for me. I had a copperoid for a few years but had it removed early due to extreme cramps. I've been using strictly condoms for a few years now and have never had any problems. Also, this may be too personal, but I never allow my spouse to ejaculate into the condom when his penis is within me. This is for increased safety and peace of mind. Perhaps twice a year he will arrive too quickly or unexpectedly and be unable to go in time. He came abruptly into the condom the night we conceived my daughter. I didn't think much of it because it happens occasionally, but now I'm really reconsidering several things. Comments where Ape has responded. Commenter 1, how does a neurologist work from home? NTA. Is he pleased that you feel imprisoned, overwhelmed, and alone? It is time for him to grow up. Oop, if I move to a WFH job, I'd probably have to stop caring for patients as a neurologist. I'd definitely wind up consulting for a health insurance firm. I realize it sounds soul-sucking. Commenter 2, why would you return to work after 9 weeks? Don't you have 1 year of paid maternity leave? Oh no, not in America. To be honest, you're lucky to have paid maternity leave in this nation. Commenter 3, NTA nonetheless, I would examine the red flags here. He desired a kid, and you suddenly became pregnant. Now he wants to return to work, but the contract has suddenly altered. Plus, why did he feel alone and overwhelmed when he stayed at home, but you appear to be unconcerned about staying at home and feeling the same way? At update September 29, 2024. Hello everyone, it has been a few months since my first post. I had not expected my post to receive so much attention, and I was honestly overwhelmed by it. Thousands of comments, hundreds of direct messages, and I even discovered my article screenshotted and shared on Twitter. Thank you to everyone who has written me warm and encouraging direct messages. I appreciate it more than you realize. To individuals who wrote me rude DMs condemning me as a mother, you contribute to the fact that 40% of female doctors go part-time or leave medicine entirely within 6 years of completing their residencies. Women can want a profession and a family, just as men have for centuries. This does not turn us into nasty creatures. To individuals who contacted me DMs wanting medical advice, I am not comfortable offering medical advice on Reddit, and I genuinely hope you obtain the treatment you require. I addressed the subject of why I was not on birth control in a different remark. However, hormonal birth control is not effective for many women. Even board-certified abgins may attest to this. After nearly 10 years of experimenting with every type of birth control available, I determined that condoms and pull-out were sufficient. Was this a stupid decision? Yes. However, 40% of doctors are overweight, indicating that we are not always the greatest at caring for our own health. Regardless, I have no regrets. I adore my kid, and wouldn't alter a thing. Okay, now for the real update. A few days. After I wrote my initial piece, I realized how terrible what I said to my spouse was. Regardless of how unhappy I was, I should never have used our kid as leverage in an argument. Even if I had to quit my work tomorrow and become a single mother, I would do it for her because I love her more than anything, and would always pick her. I still feel bad about what I said. It was a terrible thing to say. I also failed to be more tolerant and accepting of my hubby. To provide some perspective, my mother traveled from out of town to be with us for the first 8 weeks after I gave birth. My hubby contributed much. I'd say they each performed half of the work with the baby for the first week or two while I rested. After that, we divided the job among the 3 of us. So for him to go from having 2 people help him to being on his own for an entire weekend in less than 10 days was obviously a major shock, and I should have known that. His concerns about feeling confined, overwhelmed, and alone are exactly why I don't want to be a song. Yes, we made an agreement, but I should have given him the opportunity to express his worries freely without me flipping crap. I remained with my sister and our kid for a few days after the fight to give my husband some space. He would come to see her every day during this time, but we agreed not to converse. When I arrived home, I apologized to him for mishandling the matter. To my amazement, he also apologized. He assured me that he never planned to back out of our commitment. He was simply overwhelmed and unsure of his ability to adequately care for our baby. He apologized for giving up so quickly and proposing that I WFH. And he warned me that whatever we chose, I should not abandon my practice. He ended his apology by saying that he wants to give being a stay-at-home parent another chance. We then had a long discussion on how we would go from there. He explained that caring for our daughter was not the most difficult aspect. It was keeping up with the cooking and cleaning. So we decided to hire a maid and order a meal kit delivery service. To make him feel less isolated, he joined one of the new parent support groups. My sister-in-law has volunteered to come over 3 times a week to babysit for a few hours so he can go to the gym or have some alone time. I also informed him that if he ever feels like he can't be a sod anymore, he should let me know. I made it plain that, while I would be mildly unhappy, I would be far more disappointed knowing that he was exhausted and stressed from caring for our kid. Since then, we've made measures to enhance our marriage, such as scheduling weekly date evenings. I still don't feel comfortable leaving our kid with anyone other than family, so most of our date evenings consist of long walks while pushing her in the stroller or Netflix and takeout on the sofa, but it's been working. Addressing the issue of holes protruding through the condom. No, I don't think this happened. I honestly did not bother questioning my hubby about this. I believe that an accusation of this scale would be harmful to our marriage, especially because it was already in such a vulnerable position. My spouse has consented to undergo a vasectomy so that we can avoid any more happy accidents. He is slated for later this year, therefore we will refrain from PIV until then. This entire experience made me realize I needed to return to treatment, and I've been seeing my therapist for about 6 weeks now. My CSA has not had an effect on my life in roughly 8 years before this. But having a daughter and battling with postpartum anxiety has brought up some really terrible ideas. I know I'm being overprotective because of my trauma, and I want to get over it so that I can be a decent mother and spouse. Many people advise me to leave my spouse, and I'm sure many of you reading this may believe I'm making a mistake. I know I'm not. My spouse had a weak moment and broke down, but he has no history of being untrustworthy, dishonest, or unsupportive. He helped me through my last 2 years of medical school and my residency. Please keep in mind that my post focused on the low point of our relationship. It did not reflect the 8 amazing years we had shared together. Comments when the OP has responded, Commenter 1. Oh dear, this is all step 40. Oop. I began preparing for the USM Level 2 test about a year after my spouse and I started dating. This is a monster of a test. 9 hours in one day, you'll be tested on all of your clinical knowledge. Your residency match is mainly reliant on your Step 2 performance. Obviously, I was really anxious. About 6 weeks till my test. My spouse and I had a dinner reservation for 8 p.m. I was fatigued, every way I can, while he makes the arduous adjustment to being a sod. Call me a Stepford wife all you want, but it's not worth it to me to lose my family over one terrible quarrel. Oop on whether she will have any more children, and if not, any treatments that need to be completed. My hubby is undergoing a vasectomy. I tried a copper iud for a while, but it gave me dreadful periods. I am weary of family planning focusing just on women. I do not want to suffer with the adverse effects of hormonal birth control for another 10 years, especially when my husband has consented to a short outpatient operation. Next narrative, I proposed to my girlfriend and began preparing our wedding. But then she proposed a threesome with her crush. So I canceled our wedding. Now her family is accusing me. So this is a long and sad situation that I feel the need to rant about, because it has been really difficult for me to cope with thus far. I just proposed to my now ex-fiancé, 23F, after 2 years of dating. We met through common pals at work. We started conversing as friends, then went on dates, and on New Year's Eve we started dating. During the beginning of our relationship, she mentions this guy named Marvin. According to her, Marvin has always had a thing on her, and throughout the early months of our relationship, he texted her numerous times, imploring her to leave me and give him a chance. We used to talk about how pitiful this man was and how she hates him for hinting she would leave me for him. I should explain that I am nothing extraordinary. I am a 5 Asian geeky man. Time passed, and after 2 years of dating I decided to propose to her. So on New Year's Eve I handed her the ring, and she said yes in front of her entire family. I had some money saved up, and she doesn't work, so I started searching for venues, food, invites, decor, and everything. I spent a lot of money because her parents are not able to help with the bills, and I have enough cash to get through this comfortably. One day, while doing errands, we started chatting about having a threesome. We are in our 20s, so there are plenty of things we want to do. We talked for a long about how we could locate someone, and she suddenly said, "I have someone in mind." I inquired who it was, and she said, "Marvin." I knew it was the first red flag, but I ignored it. I inquired why, and she simply stated that she was sexually attracted to him. I questioned why she would claim she hates him first, and then chose him as her first option for a threesome, and she said it was merely a one-time occurrence. So I told her that was fine, but we needed to discuss later to establish rules and boundaries, and I wanted to speak with him personally before giving the green light. During the following several days, she seems quite eager and comes to show me motels. And when will we meet with him? And how wonderful is everything? I told her we needed to speak about it first, since it isn't as easy as it seems, and we need to set some boundaries. After a day or two, she cooled down and began to bring up the matter again. We got to the point where she persisted so much and brought the matter up so many times that I had to tell her that, unless she calmed down, no threesome would happen. She apologized and mentioned that I was correct, but something did not feel right. That afternoon we were taking a nap, and when she was sleeping, I searched through her phone and discovered she had been cheating on me with him for several months. They had been meeting while I was working, and she even sent them one of those online BDSM tests to check if his kinks matched hers. To say I was outraged would be an understatement. She awoke while I was checking my phone, and I addressed her. She began weeping, claiming she was sorry and didn't know what she was doing. I grabbed my belongings and rushed out to stay in a motel. That night, I received a call from her parents, who told me how I was spoiling the engagement by behaving like a baby when I was the one who brought up the threesome, and how her daughter was not to blame. I hung up without saying anything and began canceling everything I planned for the wedding. She phoned the next day, apologizing and inviting me back. Her entire family is texting me, telling me to man up and not break the engagement, even though I was the one at fault. AITA, why did you cancel everything? Update 1 September 5th, 2024. Hello folks. Thank you for everyone's advice. I appreciate your support and the negative remarks. Both opinions were useful. Now, let me address a few points before moving on to step 1. My ex quit working to attend college. We met at work, but she resigned after we moved in together. 2. My now ex-fiancé informed her folks that we were breaking up because I suggested the threesome and became upset when she mentioned Marvin, and her parents believed her. 3. Yes, I wanted reinforcement that I was not at blame. I've been conditioned to be a doormat my entire life, so it's difficult for me to speak up for myself. Here's the update. After viewing all of your messages, I contacted my Phil, and we arranged to meet at a local mall to discuss why I broke the engagement. I had a nice connection with him, and we both had similar interests and activities, so I figured we could talk. We met, even though he appeared angry. He agreed to listen. I grabbed screenshots of my ex-fiance's talks with Marvin and gave them to him. After reviewing what he told me, my ex told them a completely different tale. According to what he told me, my ex went to them weeping, saying I was breaking the engagement because I wanted a threesome, and when she chose Marvin as the third, I snapped at her. He also added that Marvin has been checking on my ex, who has been residing with them since we broke up. We went to my apartment and packed up all of her possessions so she could move out. I retained the ring, which was also in the apartment. We're on our way to drop off everything for her right now. I'll keep you all updated. Update 2 September 15th, 2024. Hey everyone, I'm back. I understand you've been waiting for this update. I had to make a new account since I was shadow banned on the previous one. I'm sorry for the delay. So, after collecting up my ex's items, Phil and I headed to his place. The travel there was unpleasant, to say the least. When we arrived, we stepped inside and saw Emil, my ex, and who else? Yes, fucking Marvin. They were all in the living room. My ex appeared to have been sobbing for a while. Marvin hugged her, and Mil sat next to her with a box of tissues. My Mil saw me in and began asking Phil what I was doing there. He stated that we all needed to discuss the problem, and he came to explain a few points. We all sat down, and Marvin was going to leave the room when Phil shouted, "Please stay, you are also a part of this." Marvin sat down, but you could see he wasn't doing well. His right leg was bouncing, and he avoided making eye contact with me or my ex, which made Mil and my ex grin. But I had one condition. Marvin must show him the WhatsApp discussion he had with my ex. At the time, I was stunned. I was going to protest when I realized something. Most likely, my ex erased the conversation with Marvin. But there was a chance he didn't. Marvin protested, but my Phil pushed and urged him to do it for her daughter. My ex and Marvin exchanged glances, while Mil was silently staring at Phil. Finally, Marvin rose up and departed without saying anything else. My ex started weeping again, and Phil urged her to stop. He said I showed him screenshots of their talks, and that he was unhappy to be raising a cheating slut. Mil was stunned, so I showed her the screenshots. They both yelled at her, asking how she could do such a thing while also lying to them. Finally, Phil went to dump her items in the driveway and informed her she needed to find another place to stay since she was no longer welcome there. Phil apologized to me and said he wanted to stay in touch to make sure I was okay. I returned home after all of that feeling empty. NGL. I believe it was the adrenaline wearing off. I received one call from my ex but did not answer it. I blocked the phone and instructed security at my building to trespass if she came by. I wrote about what happened on Facebook and Instagram, including screenshots of the chat, to ensure that she could not misrepresent the issue to friends and family. I will receive the most of my money after canceling the venue, food, and other expenses, therefore I plan to relocate to another state. I had several STD tests done, and I am clean. And I plan to sell the ring to recoup my investment. So far, that is the update. I don't believe I'll be updating this anymore, but I'd want to thank everyone for their comments, both positive and negative. Hopefully everything is better now. And fell asleep at 6 p.m. while standing him up for supper. At 9 p.m. he knocked on my apartment door to see if I was okay, and I burst into tears as soon as I opened it. All of my tension and worry spilled out, and I sobbed in his chest, telling him I couldn't complete medical school. He spent the entire night soothing me and remained by my side throughout. He delivered meals twice a day so I didn't have to cook, did my laundry once a week, conducted my errands, and cared for my cat. He offered me many back massages because I had spent so much time slumped over my textbooks. He emotionally supported me throughout the process, never letting me lose sight of my dream, and did everything he could to assist me get through my difficult time. This is who my spouse is. And now I'm returning the favor. I am helping him in